So I went 3-1 with my complimentary plays on Saturday. Easy winners with Clemson, Florida Atlantic, Central Florida, and Memphis going over the total. And I naturally lost with my Mid-American Conference play because I never win a play in the damn MAC Conference, as Toledo failed to get there with Akron. But I have won 16 of my last 22 complimentary plays on the short term. And in the NFL over the past 3 weeks, I've only gone 9-1 with the NFL freebies, and I've got 2 more for this Sunday slate as I take a look at the late game between the Eagles and Seattle. Of course, last Sunday I hit my 15-dime best bet with the Eagles, 31-3 as a 14-point chalk over Chicago. And on the early card, I'm going to take a look at the game between the Texans and the Titans. Now, before I get going and setting up this Sunday slate, a quick note regarding Saturday's video report. I think I did it at about 5 a.m. and I was coming off working about 18 or 19 hours in a row handicapping for Saturday's card. I believe I misspoke on Saturday's card. I think for a second I thought I was working for the White House press staff, or I was a frustrated Republican spouting off about fake news. But I think in yesterday's video I may have said mistakenly that I won with Southern Cal on Friday, which of course I didn't win with Southern Cal. I personally pushed with Southern Cal, which because when the time I released the play, Southern Cal was a 3.5-point favorite, and I bought down the half point. But as I noted in Saturday's video report, I personally ruled that as a loss for everybody here at the site because that line eventually, 4 hours after I released it, went up to 4. So I'm not going to regurgitate all the facts. But I just wanted to let you know that I did not lose my mind yesterday or suddenly again think that I was the White House press secretary. So we move on. Yesterday, I had the 11th ever college football 30-dime release of my career and scored with Memphis. And I will say this once again. And this will be something that will divide gamblers right down the middle from day one of gambling until gambling ceased to exist. I have always believed that you buy the half point when the line crosses 3, 4, 7, or sometimes 10. I did it again yesterday. I encouraged you all to do it, and I don't understand why every single gambler doesn't do it. Yesterday at 5 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, when I released the play, Memphis was a 7-point favorite, underdog at Central Florida, and I told you, buy the half point. It was a simple strategy. It was an absolute no-brainer to me because I thought it was going to be a back-and-forth game as I told you it was going to be, and it turned out to be. And Memphis naturally lost by 7 points, but because I personally spent an extra 20 cents. 20 cents. If this was in the middle of July and I told you, hey, let's bet, the Detroit Tigers at minus $1.05, or maybe we'll bet the Pittsburgh Pirates at minus $1.25. Would you have blinked an eye at either one of those selections? Absolutely not, because it was just 20 cents and it was a baseball bet. So why would you have blinked an eye yesterday at spending an extra 20 cents? But again, there will be those divided right down the line as if you were a Republican or a Democrat and you would never cross party lines, who would never take my advice at doing so. Just like the same people that pushed or didn't push, perhaps, on Friday with USC Stanford. Just like the same people who pushed or didn't push or won or lost, depending on whether you were on the favorite or underdog or whatever, on the Monday night game with the Texans or the Ravens, and 1,000 other possibilities I could tell you about. I just don't understand it. But listen, the bottom line is Memphis covered. I'm happy. Now, there will be some of you that say, hey, Al, didn't that line at some sports books drop to 6.5 at about 11:05 to 11:15 Eastern time, less than 1 hour before kickoff yesterday? Yes, it did. What the hell were you waiting for? Now, I am a guy that says 99% of the time you bet the favorites early and the underdogs late. But my God, guys, that line, as I pointed out in my analysis yesterday, was a joke. I didn't understand why the line was set that way. Oh, now some of you will say, geez, the odds makers knew what they were doing. The odds makers don't know what they're doing all the time. They weren't sitting there with the crystal ball going, oh my God, that game is going to sit there and it's going to finish right at 7. No. Listen, the odds makers are setting the line just like market factors are setting the line in Wall Street. You know, the number was priced fairly to stimulate action on both sides of the coin, okay? And that's the bottom line. But in certain games, especially big public games like yesterday's championship game, this wasn't a game that was buried on a Saturday normal regular season card in week number 8 where there were 70 games and it was one of those small games buried. This was a game that I thought was going to stimulate a lot of betting action, especially on the early card between two teams that were going to put a lot of points on the board. You had to get your play in early, whether you were on the favorite or the underdog. Again, bought the half point, walked away with the win. Now, as you know, I'm a guy who likes to press the action, so I'm coming right back again today with another rare 30-dime release, this time in the NFL. I'm 11-6 with these plays over the past 6.5 years. It goes on the late afternoon card, the 4 o'clock hour on the afternoon card Eastern time. It's one of the 4 games there. It's a line error lock. I believe the odds makers have made a dramatic mistake in terms of the pricing of this particular game. Just like yesterday's play was half priced, the same goes today. The coupon code is HALF, H-A-L-F, and I'll give you the usual warning. I'm not telling you to bet the Christmas Club funds, the mortgage payment, the rent that's due, or the kids' lunch money. I'm just telling you, if you happen to have the excess funds to put it down, you have to play it within your own personal bankroll allocation system. And remember the golden rule of gambling. Never bet more than you can afford to lose, because therefore you'll never get yourself into a deep financial abyss from which there is no escape. Now, another big play that is going today, Chris Jordan, who has made $1 better since last Thanksgiving, over $54,000. Today, the 10th ever triple your wager 3,000 star release in the NFL in his 35-year career. Why is that significant? He's had 9 of them. He has won all 9 of them. Last Sunday, it was the Eagles. 2 Sundays ago, it was the Chargers crushing Buffalo. Today, it's the Vikings-Falcons. You get it for over half price off, just like the Eagles and the Chargers over the past 2 Sundays, using coupon code Chris, his first name. Also going today, Tommy Brunson, who is 3-0 since joining the site in September with 159 releases, the highest rated NFL play of his career. Last Sunday, it was, who was it? The Panthers coming back against the Jets. He has one going tonight, Eagles and Seahawks. You get it for over half price off by using coupon code 150dimer. All your other discounts, etc., are over on the homepage. Let's get to your complimentary plays. Let me talk about the Eagles game first. Now, again, I used the Eagles as my best bet last Sunday. I'm going to come back with them again tonight. It's been interesting when you look at this line. 5.5 earlier some places this week, but mainly 5. That line has dropped to 4 as I do this video report at 9:15 Eastern time this morning. 4.5 earlier, now down to 4. I've even seen some 3.5s out here. I'm not surprised, because everybody feels that Seattle has that mystique at home. Why, though? Let me ask you, why? Are the Seahawks any good? I mean, isn't this a Seahawks team that lost at home to Atlanta 34-31, a game in which the Falcons jumped out to the early lead and then had to hold on and withstand a furious comeback? Isn't this a Seattle team that lost at home to Washington 17-14, a game in which they came back, and then the Redskins with Kirk Cousins with that long bomb brought the Redskins back for the last second win? Isn't this a Seattle team that had to withstand Deshaun Watson putting up all those points on the board in a 41-38 win at home against Houston? This is a Seattle team that's crippled in its secondary, minus Richard Sherman, minus Cam Chancellor, minus one of its top pass rushers in Cliff Averill. This is not the Seattle team that we've grown accustomed to in past years. This is a Seattle team that's getting it done because Russell Wilson is its only legitimate offensive threat. This is a Seattle team that can't run the ball. On the other hand, you have a Philadelphia team that's won 9 straight games, scoring 26 points in each of those games minimum. A Philadelphia team that leads the NFL in scoring. You've got an Eagles team that is aggressive defensively, puts a lot of pressure on quarterbacks because they've got 6 defensive linemen that their defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, rotates in there, so you've got a constant pass rush. Now, true, Russell Wilson has the mobility, and has the legs to elude that pass rush. But the Eagles are still going to come after him. And Seattle can't run the ball. On the other hand, since getting out, the Eagles were running the ball so effectively anyway, and they're even stronger running the ball since they went out and got Jay Ajayi from the Miami Dolphins. This is a damn good Eagles team, an Eagles team that on the ground is averaging 147.5 yards a game. You got Carson Wentz, who is completing 60.2% of his passes and 28 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. A great third down offense, again, against a depleted, injury-riddled Seattle secondary. And I just like the Eagles here. And at 3.5, 4 points, I'm absolutely, again, buying down the half point on Philadelphia. In using the Eagles last Sunday, I think I started off my analysis saying at that time, having won 8 in a row and covering 7 straight games, I said, why not? And I feel the same way tonight. Why not? Until they lay an egg. The only egg I've seen them lay here during this winning streak is when they had that sluggish first half coming off the bye at Dallas. And then they scored 30 unanswered points to blow out the Cowboys in the second half. I'm going to keep riding the Eagles here, and I'm going to go with them once more. A couple of interesting stats, though. I just wanted to pass this on to you because I had done my research on this game, and I came up with some interesting things here. In regards to the Eagles in this particular contest, the Eagles, in terms of the first 3 quarters, they have been an outstanding team, and I just want to get these exact numbers. The Eagles have outscored all opponents in the first 3 quarters, 256 points to 106 points. That's the biggest point differential among all teams in the NFL, outscoring opponents by 140 total points in the first 3 quarters of the games. So their average lead going into the fourth quarter has been 16.5 points during their 9-game winning streak. In the last 4 games, it's been 22.5 points. Interesting, right? Now, Seattle has only outscored its opponents by a total of 4 points in the first 3 quarters. But in the fourth quarter, they're the best team in the NFL, outscoring their opponents this season, 104 to 46 points. What does it all mean? Well, that's something to consider. Maybe not for the Eagles in tonight's game, but think about this for the Eagles when they're laying big points as the season progresses in terms of a first half play. Think of this in terms of Seattle as the season has already played out and as it continues. Seattle as a dog has been so good, or as a second half play, or as a fourth quarter play if your sportsbook offers those type of odds because of their comeback ability. And taking it a step further, Russell Wilson, I just want to quote these numbers, is the top-rated fourth quarter passer this season with a quarterback rating of 134.9. 14 of his 23 touchdowns have come in the fourth quarter. 10 of his 24 rushing first downs have come in the fourth quarter. Over the last 3 seasons, his passer rating in the first 3 quarters, good, not great, good, 92.8. It's 115.5 in the fourth quarter over the past 3 years. In the first 3 quarters over the past 3 years, touchdown to interception ratio, good, 46 TDs, 22 interceptions. In the fourth quarter, the past 3 years, 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Captain comeback? Yeah, I'd say so. So just numbers. When I do my research, I always do the research and I always factor in certain numbers, not necessarily for today's game, but file them away for a little later. And those are some numbers that I thought were very intriguing to think about Seattle. Again, second half possibilities, underdog possibilities, and the Eagles as a first half consideration play as the season progresses. Okay, Tennessee is a 7-point favorite at home today against the Texans. Texans working on a short week. They've lost 4 straight games on the road. Titans have won 4 straight at home this season, 8 of 9 going back to last season at Nashville. Big revenge game, because remember what happened earlier this season when they went to Houston and got absolutely demolished. But that was with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. And Watson in that game was superb as the Texans had 445 total yards. And Deshaun threw for 4 touchdowns, ran for another, but he's not there. You want to put your money on Tom Savage? I wouldn't. Marcus Mariota has not played well. 6 interceptions the past 2 games, 12 interceptions on the season versus just 9 touchdowns. But I think the key here today is the Tennessee Titans coming out and establishing the ground game. They were a very effective ground team last season, averaging almost 140 yards a game on the ground. But this season, they're only averaging about 115. And one of the reasons is that DeMarco Murray, a renaissance season a year ago, has not produced this year, averaging only 3.7 yards a carry. On the other hand, Derrick Henry really has produced, averaging over 4.5 yards a carry. So I think you're going to see Derrick Henry get the bulk of the early carries here, trying to soften up this Texans defense, which is very good against the run. But listen, the Ravens were able to run against them on Monday night. Again, short week for Houston, so I think that works against them. Tom Savage is a turnover waiting to happen. 3 more TOs on Monday night for the beleaguered Houston backup quarterback, who shouldn't be starting for anybody in this league when you get down to it. Tennessee revenge, -7 points. I'm going to buy down the half point on the Titans. And those are going to be your 2 complimentary plays. In terms of ranking them, I like them evenly. I like Tennessee and Philadelphia evenly. So Tennessee and Philadelphia, both buying insurance on them. Those are your 2 comp plays for Sunday.